Okay, so this is the other side with Paul Cohen. I got Paul Cohen, my junior
Woo!
high school friend. He's all the way in balmy Florida. How are you doing there, Paul?
We're doing great. Just waiting for the rains to stop. It's been like Noah's Ark down here, so all
Oh,
good.
wow.
Everything good.
All right. Well, it's been years. I met Paul, we were just saying, back in junior high school. So we won't
70s.
date ourselves, but we'll just say it's a long time ago. But Paul and I have kept in touch, and one of the great things about Paul is on the spiritual side, because the other side is more about being uplifting and inspirational and ordinary people with extraordinary lives and telling stories of a different perspective. So there's two trains of thought with UFOs. There's people that are total believers and have seen it, or they just totally believe that in we have billions of galaxies. How could there not be life forms anywhere but just here? So Paul is on the side airing of a believer, and he has some phenomenal stories to tell. So with these stories, we'll have questions, and there's anybody that wants to come up against Paul on another interview, not against, but with another train of thought, we'll have another episode with Paul Cohen. But for now, let's hear some of these stories, Paul, that you've told me over the years and share with everybody.
Well, first of all, it's great to reunite with my childhood friend, Diane. She's amazing. You feel the energy. It's great. I'm great to be here. I love talking about everything and anything. You have to be open-minded in life, and I've seen things. I've experienced things. It actually started a long time ago in New York. I saw something in the sky when I was a kid with a friend of mine. We were very young. Years later, I did some research, found out a lot of other people actually saw it. It was over Long Island Expressway, 1972. Big silver object. I saw it over my neighborhood. Other people saw it when they were driving home from work. So I was into this subject because I saw something, not because I chose it. It chose me. Then years went by. Ended up living in Florida, and I reunited with that same person who I saw that disc-like object when I was a kid, and he actually remembered it as well. And it was cool because this was now almost 20 years later, and we realized it actually happened. I kind of thought it was a dream. But for me personally, the UFO phenomena actually got me into being a spiritual person. It showed me who I am on the inside. Something from out there, wherever, showed me who I am on the inside, and I only understood that years later. And then I did a lot of research, and just over the years have seen and heard so many things. It's like, you can't deny it once you see it, and as the term UFO just stands for unidentified flying object. Not everything flying that's unidentified is from outer space or extraterrestrial. There are a lot of rational explanations for it, but our government knows about this since the beginning. They have video. They recently have been putting out video that our pilots are on television telling the world there's things in our own atmosphere. We don't know what they are. They couldn't stop them if they tried. And the guys these are trained people for 20 years in the military, if they don't know what they are, that really says something. So this phenomenon is real. If it wasn't real, it would have went away a long time ago. It's never went away. If anything, it only proliferates. Every year there's more and more and more stories. One of my favorite stories is I met a gentleman 20 years ago. He was an abductee. There's people who say they've been abducted by little grays, and then there are people who say they've been contacted by higher dimensional beings who are more loving and give them information. This is more what happened to me over the years. I ended up meeting these beings who said they were the ones in the ships. They're supposedly the Pleiadians. The Pleiades is the seven sisters, the seven daughters of Zeus from Greek mythology. They've been in our history for thousands of years, and they're beings who say they've been coming here for thousands of years. They're mentioned in the Bible, in the Torah. Why are these beings mentioned in the Torah when only two constellations, the Pleiadians and the Orion, are mentioned in the Bible? Interesting. Those are for people to do their own research. So for me, like I said, I've seen them. Not only have I seen them, I have them on video with friends, with other people. I've been into this for now 30 years plus, actually my whole life pretty much. So I love to talk about it. I ended up being a mental health therapist because I had the ability to reach people deeply to help them with their personal problems. And then I realized that, well, I'm a mental health therapist, and then if I believe in UFOs, I ended up contacting the newspaper to let them know that I'm going to have a open public discussion on UFOs so people can come and just talk and not be brandy crazy. It was a success because hundreds of people showed up, people from all walks of life. The radio stations came, newspapers came, and it was just a wonderful experience for me, and this has been going on and on for many, many years. It hasn't stopped, and it will continue.
Let me ask you, can you give a specific encounter? Because you said back in the early 70s, you noticed your first UFO sighting. So can you be specific with the shape, the form?
Everything.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so embedded in my mind. And it actually, I think it was 1972. And then when I did the research on Google, it came up with the article that other people have described exactly what I saw. This is exactly what my friend Tom, he's now passed away, rest his soul, used to live down the street from you off of right on the street, Coconut.
Candy Lane.
He lived next door to one of our old friends. Anyway, he was a good friend of mine. So 1972, we're in my pool. Somebody said, let's go get the ice cream man. We get out of the pool, we run up to the front of the house, and we look up in the sky, and all of a sudden, a giant silver-shaped disc. It looks like the size of the house, like you heard from years ago, a silver disc, and like two saucers on top of one another. And we looked at it, we were little kids, we were like, what the hell is that? And all of a sudden, it didn't make any noise, but it kind of like was hovering over the house, and then it moved really, really slow. And then all of a sudden, when it got to the end of the street, we ran down after it and went, it just took off like a zillion. And we were like, what the? Oh my God. And I still remember it like yesterday because it was so clear. It was a silver object the size of the house. And my neighbor's house, I knew who they were, the name of the Magsdens, I remember everything. Years later.
Paul, did you go tell your parents? I mean,
we ran home, we ran back to the house, told everybody. And everybody was like, oh, yeah, they probably looked up and it was already gone. But the cool thing was, probably 7, 8 years later, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the first one came out. And then E.T.
Dating us. Oh my gosh.
Remember that? Close Encounters? And then E.T. by Steven Spielberg. That reawakened the memory and the whole event for me because now I realized it was a real event. It wasn't a dream. I started to think it was a dream because I was a little boy. And now these movies came out, and then when I moved to Florida, I reunited with my friend Tom, and he verified the whole thing. He's like, oh yeah, what was that? Remember that thing over the Magsden's house? It was our neighbor. And I'm like, yeah, that, and he couldn't believe it. So now I had physical proof from my best buddy who was there, and a news article over Long Island. I can send it to you. That's just my personal thing. When I moved to Florida, that's when it really accelerated.
Oh, I can't wait to hear these. So it's not just from the 70s. You've been seeing these.
It never stopped.
Objects.
The 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, 2010s. I saw something not even 3 weeks ago with my girlfriend, and she saw it. And I told her, we see objects here at this house. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's for me. Maybe because we live 10 miles from the Bermuda Triangle. But Florida is a hot spot, always was. But I have them on video, and she got to see it as well.
So maybe next time when I have you on, we can have the video playing behind you or something, because I'd love to see it.
It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube.
Oh, so tell everybody what's the YouTube where they can go see what you posted. What is the address?
Yeah, we'll have the link sent. I could, like, my cat is
well, do you know what your link is?
No, I would have to Google it. I can send it to you in like 2 seconds if you want, or you want to do it next time.
Okay, we could do that.
I have the link.
Okay, we'll show the link, or we'll post the link up for sure. But
yes.
So, Paul, you said you've never seen an extraterrestrial. You just saw their ships. correct?
Well, let's say in my dream state, I've seen many. In my waking state, I don't think I've ever seen anybody when I was awake.
Okay, so when you're sharing these stories and you're in Florida where you say it's very active, do you have friends in Florida or have you talked to people yourself that have seen them?
Oh yeah, for I've been living here now like almost 40 years. So many people that I know have seen them. Many people have been over my house and they've seen them. And sometimes there was many people and we all saw it at the same time.
Wow.
Yes.
So, but you all saw the ship at the same time.
Yeah, we
So
saw the ships.
when the
Yeah.
friends are telling you about seeing the extraterrestrials, what do they say and how do they describe them? And they're in
Not many
what part
people
of
have.
Florida?
Not many people that I've met have seen extraterrestrials. A few, and the ones who've seen them, some people have seen the Greys. Some people have been in contact with the Nordics or the Pleiadians, and they're different. They're different. They're different experiences. The ones who actually have seen physical either were taken out of their homes against their will and taken onto spaceships or something, and the ones who have seen or been with the Pleiadians has been more of a sharing of knowledge and information for future. This is my story. I've had the fortunate experience of seeing the beneficial ones, and they've come into my life several times with specific messages, and it still happens, but I haven't seen them in a little while. But it seems to be we're getting close to that time when I was told 25 years ago we're going to see a gradual and then all at once. They're here. They never left us. Anybody who thinks that they're not here just never researched history or sees NASA's own videos. I mean, our space station takes videos of these things almost daily. Anybody can see it. They're all there. NASA puts them out. They try to stop it, but somebody always leaks it out. So the proof is overwhelming. And if you want to argue about proof, I can't wait for the next show.
Oh, good. Well, I'd love to know what some of these messages are they putting it in your dream state when you're sleeping?
When it first started, it was actually very interesting because my father kind of had the same. This is the way it started. It's a good story because back in I've been dealing with these things, seeing things in the sky since I'm a kid. But in the 90s, it started to heat up. So in 1996, I was a therapist, as I said, and I contacted the newspaper that I was going to have a UFO discussion group. And then they contacted me. They wanted to do a whole story on the whole UFO thing because X-Files was very popular. And I kind of held off because I didn't want my name in the newspaper associated with UFOs. People think I'm crazy already. I don't want that. I'm just new in the industry, you know. So I blew the guy off, and then something happened. He called me back up, and he said, "We want to do the interview, and we'd like to talk to you." I said, "Okay, come on down." So he ended up coming to my house, spoke to me for 2 hours. This is a reporter who was skeptical about everything and didn't care about UFOs, but the X-Files was big, so he thought he had a story about society and extraterrestrials, UFOs, back in 1996, 97, around there. So long story short, the guy talked to me for 2 hours and said, shook my hand and said, "Thanks for not being crazy." I said, "Okay." So he realized I'm not crazy. I'm an educated man. I just happen to have an interesting story. And again, it wasn't about me. It was about doing the public discussion group so other folks could come and share their stories. And I told him a few things about what happened to me, but he was more interested about the public. So now 6 months goes by. All of a sudden, on a Friday night, I go to sleep. I wake up, I'm on the beach, and I'm out of my body. I used to leave my body a lot when I was having these dreams. And I realized that all of a sudden in front of me, remember Star Trek when Scotty they'd say, "Okay, beam me up," and you would see that stuff, the matter. They were dematerializing people on Star Trek 50 years ago. Well, all of a sudden, I was in this dream, and I woke up, and I realized I was not asleep anymore. And in front of me, I saw this stuff, which I would call the matter, and a man or somebody materialized in front of me. When he did, he had this love energy coming out of him, and it was the most amazing thing I'd ever experienced, anything like that before.
That's
And he had like this
beautiful.
blue suit on. Either he was blue or he had this like blue suit on of some kind. He had some kind of gray goggles of glasses of some kind, and he had some kind of gray hair. But the energy that this being who showed up out of nowhere, he said, "We are of the Pleiadians. We're going to contact you, and keep contacting you, okay?" I said, "Okay. I don't know who you are, but I like the energy I feel here."
So let me ask you a question, Paul. When he was speaking, was he verbalizing actual
mental.
words?
It was all mental, telepathic.
Mental.
There was no verbal. First of all, I'm not even in a body. I don't even know where my body is at this point, but it felt as real as I'm talking to you. It was so real. That's why it was cool, because I knew that I was sleeping. My body was somewhere in my home bed, and I knew that. And then I knew that this guy was real, because this was real. This was not a dream. It was a dream, but it wasn't, whatever that even means. Anyway, the energy was so beautiful. So, all right, you want to contact me? Keep contacting me. So the dream ends. Now, this is a Saturday. I wake up, and I'm like, wow, that was a great dream I just had. Now, Sunday morning, I wake up, and my phone is ringing off the hook. That newspaper reporter put my face and my name on the front page of the main newspaper, and it said, "Ufologist urges close encounter therapy." My face, my name, and my phone number. Who are you going to call in South Florida to see a UFO? And my face is on the front page of the Sunday newspaper. Oh my God, my phone was ringing off the hook. But the cool thing was, that was cool enough. I just had an experience that I never had before with some kind of being who said he's going to contact me. So now I'm telling my parents Sunday night, after the article was already out, I said, I just had the most amazing experience on Friday with some kind of dream. And my father says, "So did I." I said, "What happened to you?" My father never talks about dreams. My father's an 82-year-old ex-cop, Army guy. You don't talk about stuff like that. Mm-hmm. He says, "Well, I had a dream." I said, "Keep talking." He didn't even tell us about dreams. All of a sudden, he says, "Well, I woke up on some beach, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, somebody shows up in front of me, and he has this like energy coming out of him." I'm like, I'm shaking. I'm like, "What did he look like?" He said, "Well, he had like this blue suit on and like this goggles and like gray hair." He said, "After communicating with this man, I decided to retire. That I'm done." He ended up retiring like 6 months later. He was a cop for 35 years. I'm like, "Dad, you're not going to believe this. I was calling you to tell you I just had the same experience. I met this man on Friday. He told me I'm going to be contacted and I'm a part of him or something, like we're descendants or some kind. And now you have the same experience? Oh my God."
Yeah, there's no coincidences.
There's no coincidences. And then it gets better. A week later, I was supposed to go to another interview at another radio station because they wanted to interview me about about the newspaper article. I go all the way to the radio guys, about an hour away. I get there, the guy was sick. And they say, "Oh, we'll call you another time to do another interview." I said, "Okay." I go home, I go to sleep, I wake up. Now I'm out of my body. In my house are 6 beings of some kind. They look like me. One's got long hair, a mustache, like he's going camping, like wilderness people. But the energy that's coming out of these beings is love like I've never felt. It was like, I didn't even know what to think. And they said, "We are the Pleiadians. We are going to contact you. You are of our ancestry. You are like related to us. When the shift occurs, you're going to be like a diplomat. You're going to be helping people through the tough times. A lot of people are going to be," I'm like, all right, wait, that sounds great. And this is all going in my mind. And I said, "That's great. But how can I," and I said to them in my mind, "That sounds great. I love it. It sounds good. But how can I be here in my house, in my living room, out of my body and talking to you?" I saw my physical body on my bed, Diane.
No.
This was amazing to me. This I never experienced before. My body, I saw it, but here I am communicating with these beings who have this love. They're throwing it at me in my mind. It was like being with God, like divine. And they said, whatever they said, I don't know, I was so overwhelmed. But basically, I'm a part of them. They're like my ancestors, and they touched me, and then I started to move stuff with my telekinetics, with my mind. They were like showing me my abilities from my mind. And they said, over the years, things are going to change. You're going to be doing this and that. And let me tell you, it's all happening. It's happened. And we're living in this time that they spoke about. That's why I'm ready to go to Colorado, because that's where my calling is. And
oh my gosh, beautiful. Well, good. Come see me, and I would love to see this. I would love to.
It gets even better. One last contact. A week later, I wake up. My friend, my best friend, who I met, is like my soul twin brother from another realm. It was him and I in a dream at Circle Hill with a 7-foot-tall warrior-looking guy. We were by the Rocket. Remember the Rocket at Circle Hill?
Yes. Wow.
I had a dream. The 7-foot-tall warrior-looking guy with my best friend. Now, the 7-foot-tall guy didn't say anything, but he had this love energy coming out of him. So the dream goes, the next day I wake up, I talked to my friend. I said, I had an amazing experience last night. He said, so did I. You were in it. I said, what? I said, tell me. He says, well, you, me, and some 7-foot-tall warrior-looking guy were walking around some playground. I said, dude, I was just about to tell you the same exact thing. This is real. These experiences for me have changed my life, have given me the foundation of a warrior of love. I am a peaceful person, but I will talk about this subject. Anybody has a problem in life, I've turned out to be a helper and a giver and a guide. I've been written
That's
books.
what this is all about, Paul. That's beautiful.
It all turned out and made me such a better person, and I've shared my experiences. I help people. I don't turn people away. I bring them in, and this will continue for as long as they want me to help. I'll help anyway, because this is my calling to the universe. I'm thankful and grateful just to be a part of life. I'm still here, healthy, thank God.
Oh,
that's pretty much a quick synopsis of my story, but it keeps happening. I love it.
I love it. And I love that it helped change your life. You believe it's your purpose and your calling to help people. That's what the other side's about, bringing out truths and bringing out different sides. And hopefully if you have a different opinion than Paul or any subject that we talk about on the other side, that you're open to listening. And Paul, one last thing on the other side, because you and I both share a mutual friend who passed a couple of years ago, who was my best friend growing up.
Yes, yes.
And you remember I was in Colorado, she was in New York, and she was calling for me, and we spoke on the phone. And you called me the next day after she passed, and do you remember what you said?
I do. She just went through me. She contacted me and she wanted to have a message for you. And this is not something that happens to me a lot. It has happened a few times for certain people, but I haven't seen you since we were children. I haven't seen her, but she came through me that day and she had that message for you. And, she's on the other side and she's in God's hands and she's better now. And we'll see her, but not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. We have a lot to do.
Yes, we're still here. We're light workers. You should look at Linda, when you get a chance, look up, you're a more beautiful version of Linda Moulton Howe. Linda Moulton Howe is a very famous interviewer from 30 years ago, started as a journalist, but got started with the cattle mutilations. You want to look up something in Colorado, look up Colorado cattle mutilations. You're going to go off in tangents with that. You think there's conspiracies. So you are very similar to Linda Moulton Howe, who I met probably 25, 30 years ago. And she's still involved in this whole thing. Also, let's talk about the crop circles. They're going to start to come up now. They start to happen in June. A lot of good stuff. The other side, there's so many sides all wrapped into
So crop circles.
Yeah.
Oh, we forgot to touch on that. Have you seen one up close?
Good stuff. No, not yet. But okay. I've met the people who study them. Years ago, I was at a conference and I met a gentleman who was part of the scientific team. This guy was like a well-known gentleman who actually looked at the wheat under an electron microscope and basically published a study saying that the wheat's genetics are being changed somehow. So in other words, the two idiots who had the boards, the wood, who were walking around just stepping on the wheat, they weren't the ones who were creating circles. Anybody can do that with wood, yes. but there was an energy being applied to the wheat where he proved under the microscope it physically changed the DNA. That's major technology. And then I met a gentleman years later, Marcel Vogel. He was the inventor of the electron microscope. He actually analyzed pieces of fragments that came out of people who were implants. This guy invented the electron microscope, the intelligence. He worked for NASA. This guy was an amazing scientific genius. When he looked at the implants, which by the way has nothing to do with crop circles, but talking about some cool things on the other side, I met the doctor who took the implants out. He actually passed away. He was a California foot doctor who's now passed away. He actually removed these little tiny metal implants from people. And he didn't know what they were. This guy wasn't interested in UFOs, but when he pulled out the little metal object and somehow he got it to the scientist who looked at it, and these guys like, I don't even know what this thing is. And then when they finally, they couldn't cut it open, it was way above their, and this guy, like I said, the technology involved. So these are some really cool aspects that are involved with the UFO, crop circle, abduction, extraterrestrials, ancient technology. That's why ancient astronauts has been on television, what, 13, 14 years? Because there's so many stories. There's so much evidence. It's overwhelming. I could have wrote every single episode for Ancient Aliens because I got into this 25, 30 years ago. All the stuff that's on television now, I already read all those books. Eric Von Daniken, he started the whole thing. I read, 2,000 books on everything from A to Z, but now it's mainstream. And here we are today on the end of the world with pandemics and crazy, crazy shit. People are wondering, is somebody going to save us? A lot of stuff going on. So day by day, be happy and positive. That's the bottom line. I love it. Just enjoy life.
I love it. Well, that's why, Paul, you're such a great guy. It's so wonderful to have you on here and to see you again and to share your wealth of information about that phenomenon. We're going to have part 2 with you because I have a friend that totally debunks this phenomenon, and it would be interesting to hear both of you have both sides being told at the same time. And of course, he's going to be kind and nice and be open. And he's a funny, witty guy. So we'll have him on. But Paul, thank you so much for being on the other side and sharing your fun stories. And it was great to see you, even though it's through this. And I hope you're coming to Colorado soon.
I will. Peace and love. And I love the subjects, any subject. And one thing I learned over the years, I'm not here to prove anything to anybody anymore. I know what I know. I know what I accept. That's all that matters. But I have basically a story or a conversation for everybody. And I'll point people in a direction they might never even looked in before. And I've turned a lot of people who weren't, or they were skeptics, but after they got done talking to me, they kind of realized maybe I should be a little bit more open-minded. But either way, God bless you, you're our listeners, and let's go forward. The other side.
The other side.
Peace, love.